Have you ever met someone and immediately felt something was off? You couldn't quite put your finger on it. They were saying all the right things, smiling at the right moments, playing the part perfectly. But deep down, something in you whispered, "This isn't real." Or maybe you've watched a politician give a speech, a salesperson pitch a product, or even a friend tell you a story. And while everyone else seemed convinced, you saw straight through it. What is that? That ability to sense deception before your rational mind even catches up? Most people dismiss it as coincidence or just a feeling. But according to Alan Watts, one of the most profound philosophers of the 20th century, this isn't random at all. It's a sign of something much deeper, spiritual awareness. Watts spent his life exploring consciousness, authenticity, and the nature of truth, and he discovered something remarkable. People who are spiritually awake possess an almost supernatural ability to detect deception, manipulation, and inauthenticity. Not because they're cynical or suspicious, but because they've developed a level of awareness that cuts through illusion like light through darkness. Today, I'm going to share with you the profound insights Alan Watts had about deception, why most people can't see it, and how spiritually awake individuals spot it instantly. This might change the way you see everyone around you, including yourself. Let's begin. Before we talk about how to spot deception, we need to understand what deception actually is, according to Alan Watts. Most people think deception is simply lying, saying something that isn't true, but Watts saw it much more deeply than that. Deception as self-forgetting. For Alan Watts, the deepest form of deception isn't lying to others. It's forgetting who you truly are. Watts was heavily influenced by Eastern philosophy, particularly Zen Buddhism and Taoism. In these traditions, there's a concept that humans have an authentic nature, what Watts called your original face, before you were born. But from the moment we enter society, we begin a process of covering up this authentic self. We learn to wear masks, play roles, and perform for approval. We become the good child, the successful professional, the tough guy, the perfect partner, whatever role we think will get us love, acceptance, or survival. And here's the tragedy. We start to believe our own performance. We forget we're acting. We become so identified with the mask that we think it is us. This, Watts says, is the fundamental deception, self-deception. And once you're deceiving yourself, deceiving others becomes effortless. The social game of pretense, Watts observed that most human interaction is basically theater. We're all playing parts in an elaborate social drama. We've learned our lines, rehearsed our gestures, and perfected our facial expressions. Think about it. At work, you're professional you. With your family, you're family you. On social media, you're curated you. On a first date, your best foot forward you. None of these are necessarily lies in the traditional sense, but they're not fully authentic either. Watts called this the game of black and white. The game where we pretend to be separate, independent selves with consistent personalities, when in reality, we're fluid, changing, interconnected beings. The problem isn't that we play these games. The problem is that we forget we're playing them. Why most people can't spot deception. Here's the key insight. If you're deceiving yourself, you can't recognize deception in others. It's like asking a fish to tell you what water is. The fish doesn't know. It's completely immersed in it. Most people are so lost in their own personas, so identified with their own masks, that they can't see when others are wearing masks too. They take everything at face value because that's how they present themselves, at face value. But when someone wakes up spiritually, when they see through their own illusions, something remarkable happens. They develop what Watts called the third eye. Not a literal eye, but a capacity to perceive reality beyond surface appearances. And this is where things get really interesting. Alan Watts identified several characteristics of spiritually awake people that allow them to spot deception instantly. Let's go through them one by one. Sign number 1. They've seen through their own masks. The first and most important sign is this: spiritually awake people have confronted their own inauthenticity. They've done the difficult inner work of recognizing where they're pretending, where they're performing, where they're not being real. This might have come through meditation, therapy, psychedelic experiences, suffering, or simply deep self-reflection. But however it happened, they've had a moment of seeing themselves clearly, and it wasn't always pretty. They've recognized their own manipulation tactics, their own defense mechanisms, their own ways of avoiding truth. And once you see your own tricks, you recognize them instantly in others. It's like a magician watching another magician perform. The audience is amazed, but the magician knows exactly how the trick is done because they use the same technique. When someone has faced their own shadow, they can see everyone else's shadow clearly. Sign number 2. They read energy, not just words. Here's something Watts emphasized constantly. Words are the least reliable form of communication. Words can be carefully chosen, rehearsed, manipulated. Anyone can say anything. But energy doesn't lie. Spiritually awake, people have developed what's sometimes called felt sense, the ability to feel the energetic quality behind someone's words. They notice the tension in someone's voice when they're forcing enthusiasm, the subtle shift in someone's body when they're uncomfortable with their own statement, the energetic flatness when someone's words don't match their inner state, the dissonance between what's being said and what's being felt. This isn't mystical or supernatural. It's actually highly scientific. Humans communicate far more through tone, body language, micro-expressions, and nervous system responses than through words. But most people are so focused on the content of what's being said that they miss the context, the energy underneath. Spiritually awake people do the opposite. They pay less attention to what's being said and more attention to the quality of presence behind it. Watts used to say, "Listen to the silence between the words. That's where the truth lives." Sign number 3. They notice incongruence. Incongruence is when different parts of someone's communication don't match up. For example, someone saying, "I'm fine," with clenched fists. Someone saying, "I'm so happy for you," with sadness in their eyes. Someone saying, "I'm telling the truth," while avoiding eye contact. Someone preaching love and compassion while treating people coldly. Most people ignore these contradictions. They want to believe the words because words are easier to process. But spiritually awake people can't unsee incongruence once they spot it. It's like watching a poorly dubbed foreign film. Once you notice the lips don't match the words, you can't ignore it. Watts believed that authenticity has a quality of wholeness. When someone is being real, their words, energy, body language, and actions all align. When they're being deceptive, even unconsciously, there's a fragmentation. Different parts of them are saying different things. And to the awakened eye, this fragmentation is glaringly obvious. Sign number 4. They trust their gut over social pressure. One of the most powerful insights from Watts is this: society trains us to doubt our intuition. From childhood, we're taught to be polite, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to not judge. These can be valuable lessons, but they also have a shadow side. They teach us to override our instincts. So when you meet someone and every cell in your body screams danger, but they're charming and socially appropriate, you ignore the warning. When someone's story doesn't add up, but everyone else seems to believe it, you doubt your own perception. When you sense manipulation, but the person is respected or popular, you think you must be wrong. Spiritually awake, people have learned to trust their intuition more than social consensus. Not in an arrogant way. They're still open to being wrong, but they don't automatically dismiss their gut feeling just because others don't share it. Watts talked about this as trusting your organism. Your body, your nervous system, your deeper intelligence that's been honed by millions of years of evolution. Your conscious mind can be fooled. Your body rarely is. Sign number 5, they recognize the performance quality. There's a specific quality that deception has, what's called the performance. When someone is being authentic, there's an effortlessness to their communication. They're not trying to convince you of anything. They're simply expressing what is. But when someone is being deceptive, there's a subtle quality of effort. They're working to create an impression. You can feel them, trying too hard to be liked, over-explaining to be believed, performing emotions rather than feeling them, monitoring your reaction to adjust their story, selling rather than sharing. Spiritually awake people pick up on this performance quality immediately because they've stopped performing themselves. When you're no longer invested in managing others' perceptions of you, you become incredibly sensitive to when others are doing exactly that. It's like how a sober person can instantly tell when someone's drunk, but drunk people think they're fooling everyone. Sign number 6. They see the patterns, not just the moments. This is crucial. Spiritually awake people don't judge based on single interactions. They observe patterns over time. Anyone can be authentic for a moment. Anyone can say the right thing once. Anyone can perform kindness when it serves them, but patterns reveal truth. Watts was big on the concept of rhythm, the idea that everything in nature moves in patterns and cycles, and human behavior is no different. Spiritually aware people notice, does someone's generosity only appear when there's an audience? Does their vulnerability only emerge when they want something? Do their values shift depending on who they're with? Is their kindness consistent or strategic? They're looking at the long game, not the snapshot. This is why spiritually awake people can seem slow to trust, not because they're cynical, but because they're patient. They're waiting to see if the person's behavior is consistent over time. And if there's a pattern of deception, no amount of convincing words in the present moment will override that pattern. Sign number 7, they can sense when someone is self-deceived. Here's the most subtle and powerful ability. Spiritually awake people can tell the difference between someone who's consciously lying and someone who's unconsciously deceived. This distinction is huge. A conscious liar knows they're lying. They're deliberately manipulating. There's intent. But a self-deceived person genuinely believes their own story. They're not consciously lying. They're unconsciously denying reality. For example, the person who swears they're not angry while radiating rage. The narcissist who truly believes they're the victim, the person who claims to be happy while clearly suffering, the addict who insists they don't have a problem. These people aren't lying to you, they're lying to themselves. And in some ways, that's more dangerous because they can pass a lie detector test. They genuinely believe what they're saying. Spiritually awake, people can sense this self-deception because they've wrestled with their own. They recognize the energetic signature of someone living in denial, someone constructing elaborate stories to avoid painful truths. And instead of judgment, what arises is often compassion, because they know how hard it is to face yourself. Now you might be thinking, this sounds exhausting. If I become spiritually awake, will I just see through everyone? Will I trust no one? This is a legitimate concern, and it's one that Watts addressed directly. It's not about becoming cynical. First, seeing deception clearly doesn't make you cynical, it makes you discerning. There's a huge difference. Cynicism is the belief that everyone is selfish and no one can be trusted. That's just another form of delusion, a negative one. Discernment is the ability to see clearly what is, without judgment. To recognize deception when it's present, but also to recognize authenticity when that's present. Spiritually awake people aren't paranoid, they're simply clear. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more clearly you can see deception, the more deeply you can appreciate genuine authenticity when you encounter it. When you know what fake gold looks like, you can instantly recognize real gold. It's about liberation, not control. Watts emphasized that the purpose of spiritual awakening is not to become a human lie detector so you can control your environment. It's about liberation, freedom from being manipulated, yes, but more importantly, freedom from your own need to manipulate. When you're no longer invested in your own image, you stop caring about others' images. When you're no longer performing, you stop demanding performances from others. You become able to engage with people as they are, not as they pretend to be, not as you wish they were, but as they actually are in this moment. And that creates the possibility for real connection. It creates space for authentic relationship. Ironically, being able to spot deception makes authentic relationships more possible, not less. Because you're not wasting time with people who are fundamentally unavailable. You're not investing energy in connections built on false pretenses. You're not constantly disappointed because you're no longer fooled by initial impressions. Instead, you can identify the rare people who are genuinely showing up authentically. And with those people, you can build something real. Watts believed that human connection is the most important thing in life, but it can only happen between authentic beings. Two masks talking to each other isn't connection, it's a play. So how do you develop this capacity to see through deception? Alan Watts would say it's not about learning a technique, it's about unlearning illusions. Here are the pathways. 1. Start with brutal self-honesty. You cannot see others clearly until you see yourself clearly. Sit with yourself. Ask the hard questions. Where am I performing? Where am I manipulating? Where am I avoiding truth? What am I pretending not to know? This is uncomfortable work. Your ego will resist it violently, but on the other side of that discomfort is clarity. 2. Practice meditation and presence. Meditation isn't about becoming peaceful or spiritual. It's about developing the capacity to observe without judgment. When you can watch your own thoughts without believing them, you can watch others' performances without buying them. 3. Study your own reactions. Pay attention to your body's responses to people. When do you feel expansive? When do you contract? When do you feel energized? When do you feel drained? Your body is constantly giving you information. Learn to listen to it. 4. Let go of the need to be right. Here's a paradox. The more you need to be right, the less clearly you see. Because your need to be right creates bias. You start seeing what confirms your beliefs rather than what is. Spiritual awakening requires radical openness, the willingness to be wrong, to be surprised, to not know. 5. Embrace paradox. Watts loved paradox. He said reality is paradoxical, and anyone who isn't comfortable with paradox is living in illusion. People are contradictory. They can be authentic and deceptive, kind and cruel, conscious and asleep. The ability to hold these paradoxes without needing to resolve them is a mark of spiritual maturity. Here's what Alan Watts ultimately wanted us to understand. The ability to spot deception isn't a superpower. It's your natural state when you stop deceiving yourself. Every human being has this capacity. It's not special, it's not rare. It's just covered up by layers of conditioning, fear, and self-deception. The more you wake up to your own truth, the more clearly you see everyone else's truth, or lack of it. And yes, this means you'll see through a lot of bullshit. You'll recognize manipulation, you'll spot inauthenticity everywhere, but you'll also encounter moments of genuine connection that are so beautiful, so real, they make everything else worthwhile. Because when two awake beings meet, when two authentic souls connect without masks, without pretense, without deception, that's when life becomes magical. That's what Watts lived for. That's what he taught. So pay attention, look deeper, trust your intuition. And most importantly, stop deceiving yourself. because the moment you do, you'll see clearly for the first time and you'll never unsee it. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, share it with someone on their own path of awakening. And remember, the truth has always been right in front of you. You just needed to open your eyes.